Welcome back to my advanced programming course using C++. Again, this is Alex. Today we're going to talk about static local variables. Static. Static sounds like electricity, right? So that's my little drawing here on the bottom. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at some code, and then we can further explain what it actually means and why we would use it. So what you're looking at here is a simple function called showStatic. I don't have a return type, it's just a void, so it really doesn't return back anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit this and make this show static. Okay. Now, when I talked about local variables last time, I talked about the lifetime of a local variable. And I said that when you declare a local variable inside a function, the lifetime of it is going to die after the function ends. And that's all and good, but what if there's situations where you don't want it to end? What if there's a situation where you want to keep track of when a static variable is either incremented or it's changed? Essentially, you don't want to destroy it whenever there is a function call. And that is what the static keyword gives you. The static keyword is going to allow you to keep the variable alive even after the function call ends. So let's take a look here. It'd be important for me to actually do this inside a loop, because if I do one call, you're not going to see that statnum's value constantly changes. So let's do a loop here. So we'll do for int count is equal to 0, count is less than 5, count plus plus. So what we're doing here is we're going to iterate and call the function 5 times up until count is 4. So let's do this over here, and we'll run this program real quick. Okay, on the first iteration, when count is 0, we call showStatic. We declare it, right? This is a declaration. So what's happening behind the scenes is that it's actually going to either declare it if it doesn't exist. If not, then if it does exist, then it'll just use the instance that currently exists in memory. But you still need to have a declaration statement here, or else you wouldn't know. The compiler's not going to know where the memory location is. In this case, statnum originally is 0, right? We increment it by 1. Now, supposedly, if this variable was not static, statnum would now be destroyed. But in the case, because it is a static variable and it's a static declaration, when the loop goes into the next iteration, which is count is equal to 1, function call comes in. Again, this is already declared in memory. There's no additional allocation. Statnum's value is going to be 1 because we incremented by 1. Remember, statnum is a living, breathing memory location that does not get destroyed even if the function ends. The other important concept here is that statnum, it's static to this function. It's static to the program, and it's actually static in terms of the declaration. But the scope of statnum only lives within the function, which means that if I try to access statnum outside, so if I do out statnum, main function does not know anything about the function, the variable statnum, because the scope of statnum, it was declared within the compound statement of this function, which means the scope of this variable only lives within this function. So remember that the initialization and the declaration only happen once during the program. Even though we have a declaration here, it's not going to do the declaration again. So if I initialize this to 5, okay, on the first call, it says statnum doesn't exist, so it's going to be declared, right? It lives in memory and it starts out as 5, and then it keeps that value because it is a static variable. So if we call that, so 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, so it keeps its value. Now, it'd be different if I took away the static keyword and then I ran it. You see that it's always going to be 5 because it doesn't live in memory. It's just a local variable, and the scope of, the lifetime of statnum only is within the function time that the time that it stays in the function. Okay, so I just want to make sure that you understand that difference. So again, static variables can be declared within a function. You can declare one in main. You can even declare a global static variable, and that's perfectly okay. But usually what sometimes the use case is, you may want to declare a static variable inside a function just to see if there's anything that's happening more than once. If there's more than one function call, how many times is your function being called, then you would use a static variable. And that's it for static variables. I hope you understand the difference and why you would use them. On the next lecture, we are going to talk about putting a default argument on a function. I'll see you there.